Today's video is brought to you by Skillshare. Since we've had some pretty decent action in the wireless space as we close out 2020, I wanted to get one more in before we called it. I wanted to look at the Aerox 3 from SteelSeries, number one, because it came out pretty recently, and number two, because it's been a while since I've looked at anything from SteelSeries. This came in at an interesting price point at $99.99, and it's an interesting entry into the bloody battleground that is the lightweight wireless space right now. There's some things about this mouse that I really like, and some choices that left me really confused. And we're gonna get into it. You ready? Let's go! Yo, I'm Brian P. You're watching BadSeed Tech, and today we're checking out the Aerox 3 lightweight wireless gaming mouse from SteelSeries. For transparency, they did send this out for review, but as you should know by now, doesn't affect my review in any way. So the Aerox 3 wireless checks in at a price point of $99.99 US. It's symmetrical, but it's not a true ambi. You've got no lefty support here. And it's got holes, not like a honeycomb, more like a grid or a mesh pattern. It measures about 121 millimeters long, 58 at the front flare, 67 at the rear, and 58 at the grip, with a height of almost 38 millimeters. At a glance, the shape reminds me of the XM1. In hand, the XM1 feels a little wider at the grip, but the key difference is that the hump on the XM1 is pushed further back into your palm, where the Aerox has a more aggressive rear slope, and that hump is pushed forward a bit toward the middle of the mouse. Combined with this really low front end, this results in either a fingertip or a claw grip, with the claw feeling more natural and more comfortable because that hump rests right under my knuckle line there. Those of you with smaller hands may even find a comfortable palm grip here. Overall, I'm a big fan of this shape. It looks to me like the body size shape is really close, if not identical, to the Rival 3. I've never used that mouse. Versus the wired version, you can see some differences in the side buttons, but versus the wireless version, it looks like both the body and the side buttons are essentially a 1v1 copy, with weight being the primary difference. The weight is listed at 66 grams, though it weighs in like around 68 on my scale. That was a laudable spec for about 3 weeks until the super light hit. Interestingly enough, despite all the mods made for weight reduction, they went with one of the larger RGB diffusers I've seen. It looks clean, but I can't help but think there's probably at least 4 to 5 grams of weight on that thing. I feel like I'm being generous there. Still, it's one of the lightest out if that's a spec that you look for. The body material is one of my favorite things about this mouse. It's stated as ABS. To me, it feels and sounds like PBT because there isn't really coating here. It's textured, not smooth, not rough, just like micro texture. It seems to grip well regardless of sweat level, and it doesn't show any oil or fingerprints. I love that. And all the internals here are hydro protected as well for you extra clammy boys out there. The main switches here are golden micro 80 mils. These are IP54 rated for dust and water resistance. They're firm, crispy, no complaints there at all. The triggers themselves though, at least on my copy, really pronounced pre-travel, really pronounced post-travel, really pronounced side play. These do not feel stable to me. If this is a metric that you're sensitive to, be very aware of this. They managed to stop short of having any raised corners near the body itself, but these have like an early prototype OEM feel. I was really surprised by this. The scroll is rubberized, 24 steps, no rattle, no wobble. The height is really low to the triggers. Pretty sharp tactility with a little weight behind the scroll. D-press is nice and crispy, on the heavier side for actuation. No issues here at all for me. DPI button on top, it's small, low, out of the way, so no accidental triggers. Side buttons, I've heard a lot of chatter about these. They're small for sure, and while I appreciate generous large side buttons, I don't necessarily mind small side buttons either. I main a Viper Ultimate, and the Model O wireless has been seeing a lot of time on my desk as well lately. They both have really small side buttons. The Viper, it's like you have to go looking for them as they barely protrude from the body at all. You do get plenty of extension off the body here as the buttons have like this ridge right down the middle that flows with the body lines. For me, they're positioned very well. I can rest right on them and not trigger them accidentally because the force to depress is pretty firm. Really minimal pre-travel on my copy. Post-travel towards the rear of each button is there, but the fact that they're so small means you can't really push them very far into the frame unless you're intentionally trying to. In game, they feel good. They're exactly where I need them to be. I'm good with these. Gotta take a quick minute to thank today's sponsor, Skillshare, for continuing to support the channel. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of high-quality and inspiring classes for creatives or aspiring creators, people who maybe aren't sure how to take that first step into a new hobby or a new career path. It always cracks me up when people ask about my creative background prior to YouTube because I had none. Photography and video were completely foreign concepts to me. Something like Skillshare would have been very valuable to me much earlier in the game. With visual mediums being so crucial right now, Rachel Galata and Daniel Inskeep have a great class on DIY product photography. Even with the knowledge base I have now, I still consume content like this to get a different perspective on composition and lighting and how I can apply it to my own work. And that's just how I use Skillshare. They also have content about freelance entrepreneurship stuff, marketing, fine art, creative writing. There is so much content there. It's all curated specifically for learning, so there's new top shelf classes being added all the time, and there's no ads, so you can focus up and not risk being pulled out of that valuable creative headspace. It's also less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. And the first 1,000 of you that click the link down in the description will get a free trial of premium membership so you can start exploring your own creative path. Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring today, and thank you for your time. I appreciate it. So as you heard, there's a little rattle there, but there's a lot of body creak going on there. Gentle pressure, top and bottom, will actuate the DPI button easily. Firm side pressure actuates the side buttons, no problem. From a build quality standpoint, this does not feel like a premium product. And again, I have to say this, in gaming, in real world use, you're not gonna accidentally trigger anything on this mouse due to body flex. I don't even like to bring this stuff up in reviews anymore because the way you have to hold these mice to demonstrate this is not representative of any real world use case at all. It's not like we grade headphones based on how well they hammer nails into plywood. I only bring it up when it's noteworthy because it serves as a good overall metric for how quality something feels in hand, which is difficult to communicate in a review video. And this, again, kind of conveys that cheap OEM feel. Underneath the mouse, oh boy. Obviously, the first thing I noticed were the feet. Obviously, it was a what are those type reaction. Really weird choice here. Round, really thin. If you're a person who puts any vertical pressure on your mouse at all when you play, you'll hear the frame dragging all over the mouse pad. They're round and dimpled. They're stated as PTFE, but they went with black color here. Weird choice. Come talk to me for a sec. These could be made of the highest quality material out there. Doesn't matter. We as consumers have been trained to want thick, white glides under our mouse. To a lesser extent, virgin or pure or additive-free PTFE, however you say it, it all means the same thing. When you see this color on your mouse feet, it feels old. It gives the impression that the product is dated or that it's subpar. Wouldn't even matter if they performed well. It's a mental thing. Incidentally, they don't perform well, but still, this is simultaneously a confusing decision and a miss for me. Also underneath, you have a selector for either 2.4 gigahertz or Bluetooth mode. Nice to see. Quality of the switch itself does have a pretty cheap feel to it as well. Charging here is handled via USB-C, so crowd cheers all around for that. Why do we like it? We don't know. Inside the box, you'll also find a play and charge cable, decent weave, decent flexibility, stock paracord style. Nothing amazing about it, but nothing offensive either. You also get the desktop extender, has a little weight to it, and a rubberized bottom, and this dongle. Definitely haven't seen this before. Number one, it's pretty massive for a mouse dongle, but number two, it's USB-C as well. Depending on your front I/O, this could either be a pro or a con for you, so it's nice that the extender cable terminates in USB-A as well in the event you're working on older or limited hardware. I personally love to see this because USB-C is widely underutilized on my front I/O, and this frees up a valuable USB-A slot. In terms of wireless performance, no issue here at all. This is using what they call their True Move Air sensor. Chances are high it's another custom branded variant of the Pixar 3370, but that's purely a guess. Sensor placement is more toward the rear of the mouse as opposed to centered if that's something that you care about. Their wireless technology is called Quantum 2.0, and they claim it's the fastest, best, most accurate. Razer and Logitech also both claim that theirs is the fastest, best, most accurate, etc. I'm not sure what level of player you'd have to be, or more realistically, what kind of crazy diagnostic equipment you'd have to objectively prove or disprove this. So the easiest way to say it is this. We have reached the point where sensor and wireless performance from the leading brands are not only extremely solid, but shouldn't be used as a deciding factor when choosing a mouse. That is to say, I had no issues of any sort with the performance of this mouse, and in-game it performed as well as any other leading flagship wireless mouse. Battery life here is stated at an absurdly high 200 hours with support for fast charging that yields 40 hours of playtime on a 15-minute charge. That is way ahead of anyone else in the space. There's a 400 milliamp battery in here. That's not crazy big or anything. The G Pro Wireless, the Superlight, Viper, Model O Wireless, AMO 200, all use 500 milliamp batteries. So it's not that. There has to be some fine print somewhere. And there is. That 200 hours is in Bluetooth mode only. Guys, come on. In 2.4 gigahertz mode, which is how every gamer should and will be using this, they state 80 hours of battery life. So now that puts you 9 hours ahead of the nearest competitor in the market. This is likely accomplished with one of the more annoying default settings I've ever seen, and that is that the lighting goes off anytime the mouse is in motion. This may not bother you. It bothers me. I get that I'm not looking directly at my mouse when I'm playing, but I don't need anything in my peripheral vision blinking, looking like it's malfunctioning when I'm trying to focus. Luckily, this can be turned off in the software, as well as being able to adjust stuff like sleep timer, illumination dimming, high efficiency mode. You also get polling rate, acceleration, and angle snapping. No manual liftoff adjust that I can find. Also, lighting adjust for the 3-zone RGB, key rebinding macros, and you do have onboard profile storage as well. So wow, this was a roller coaster of a review. Some things here I really like, and some things I really don't. When looking at the high-end wireless market as a whole, let's just take some of the stuff away that I don't think should be deciding factors between those mice. Stuff like sensor performance, wireless performance, battery life, those are all largely kind of in that same area. To a lesser extent, the quality of the play and charge cable, and yes, even USB-C. Stuff I feel like are big enough factors. Shape, build quality, clicks, the feet, depending on your play style, the weight, holes seem to be a really polarizing thing. Like if you don't like the shape of a mouse or how it feels in hand or how it feels on your pad, the price point is kind of irrelevant, whether it's at the low end like the Model O Wireless or the top end like the Superlight. The biggest issue for me with this mouse is that it feels like for everything I love, there's like a counterpoint. Like I love the shape of this mouse. I like it more than the Razer Viper, and that's saying a lot. That's one of my favorite shapes out there, that and like the XM1. The coating or lack of, I really like. I like the weight. I like the feel of the switches, but I don't like the triggers themselves. I don't mind holes in my mouse, and I actually like the side buttons. But how in 2020 do you overlook something as easy as mouse feet? That's crazy to me. The overall build quality doesn't really measure up to what I would expect from Steelseries. And outside of the pretty questionable triggers, it's not like it's any one major flaw. It's like the sum of all these little creaks and tolerances and iffy feeling on parts and hearing the mouse frame bottom out on the pad that just kind of lends itself to this feeling that if this didn't have Steelseries branding, this could be any cheap overseas Amazon mouse. I have to stress, I'm not talking about tech performance, just in its hand feel and just general vibe. If it feels like I'm being hard on it, I am, because this could have been the one for me. I like the shape, the weight, and the ergonomics that much. As it is, I struggle to get behind it, but I'm not ready to write it off 100%. Some tightening up on the tolerances, maybe delete that RGB diffuser and spin that weight on reinforcing the frame. Give us some real mouse feet, and that is a banger mouse right there. Steelseries has always really invested themselves in making sure that their internals were some of the best in the industry. I would just really like to see this mouse get the performance chassis it deserves. As always, links down in the description for everything that we talked about today. I am in the process of producing a complete, comprehensive roundup of all the high-end wireless stuff for 2020. That should be out very soon. And that's it for this time. I'm Brian P. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and until next time, stay up.